Today we're going on a journey way, way back, almost 2 million years into the past, to uncover the very first chapter of India's human story. This is a story that was never written down. Instead, it was etched into the very stones and soil of the land itself. So, let's dive in. So, think about this for a second. It's kind of like the ultimate cold case, right? There are no texts, no diaries, no eyewitnesses. So how on earth do we piece together the lives of people who lived millennia before anyone ever wrote anything down? How do we give them a voice? Well, the answer is we become detectives. Archaeologists have to follow this faint trail of silent, durable objects that have somehow managed to survive the ages. You know, every crude stone chopper tells us a little something about how they prepared their food. Every faded painting on a cave wall gives us a tiny glimpse into their world, into what they believed. Each little fossil fragment is like a single word in a story, just waiting for us to read it. All right, so our story kicks off in what's called the Paleolithic, or the Old Stone Age. And the timescale we're dealing with here is, well, it's just immense. It's mind-boggling, really. We're talking about a period that spans almost the entire story of humans on the subcontinent. It's this slow, gradual dawn of consciousness. Just let that number sink in. 1.5 million years. Down in Attirampakkam and Tamil Nadu, archaeologists found stone tools that date back that far. This isn't just one of the oldest signs of early humans in India, it's one of the oldest in all of Asia. So okay, we found these really old tools, but what do they actually tell us? Well, take the Acheulean hand axe. This thing was like the Swiss Army knife of its day. Seriously, it was used for everything: cutting, scraping, digging, you name it. And that shows us that early humans, like Homo erectus, weren't just passively surviving. No, they were thinking, they were planning, and they were engineering solutions to their everyday problems. And you can literally see the evolution of their thinking right here. Over hundreds of thousands of years, we go from that one crude, all-purpose tool in the lower Paleolithic to a whole toolkit of specialized, efficient blades and even tools made from bone by the upper Paleolithic. This wasn't just a change in their gear. It was a revolution inside the human mind. So here's our roadmap for this journey. We've just touched on that vast stretch of the Paleolithic. Next up, we're going to look at the Mesolithic transition, then the totally game-changing Neolithic period, and finally, the dawn of metal in the Chalcolithic. Okay, so picture this. The Great Ice Age is finally ending. The world is warming up, the environment is changing, and that means life has to change too. This new era, the Mesolithic, or Middle Stone Age, it demanded new ways of living, and that led to some groundbreaking new technology. The key invention of this new world was the microlith. Now, that might sound a little technical, but think of them like the first ever interchangeable blades. They were these tiny, razor-sharp pieces of stone, super versatile and designed to be fitted into wooden or bone handles to create more complex tools, like, say, an arrowhead or a sickle. And this new tech, it was a total game changer. All of a sudden, people could hunt smaller, faster animals. They could fish more effectively. They started gathering a much wider variety of plants. And for the first time, we start seeing clear evidence of things like temporary huts, the beginnings of animal domestication, and even formal burial practices. All of this points to a more complex, more settled social life. But as big a deal as that was, it was really just setting the stage for what came next. And what came next? Well, you could argue it's the single most important transformation in all of human history. This is when hunters became farmers. Now, this didn't just happen overnight. It was a slow, step-by-step process. First, people started to settle down in one place. Then, they began to actually cultivate crops and domesticate animals for a stable food supply. And that new lifestyle created a need for other innovations like pottery to store their grain and polished stone axes to clear land for farming. This, right here, is the birth of the village as we know it. But here's what's so cool about this story in India. The farming revolution wasn't a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. Not at all. India's incredibly diverse landscape meant that a whole bunch of different Neolithic cultures popped up, each one adapting to its own local environment in a fascinating way. I mean, just look at the variety here. Over in the northwest, you've got Mehrgarh, one of the earliest farming villages we've found anywhere in South Asia. Then way up in Kashmir, the people of Burzahom were living in these unique underground pit dwellings. Down south, you find these giant ash mounds that tell a story of cattle herding communities. And over in the east, at sites like Chirand, they showed an incredible mastery of making tools from bone and antler. It's just amazing. All right, so we've followed this incredible story written in stone. But stone isn't the final word. The final chapter of our prehistoric journey sees a brand new material enter the stage. One that would, once again, completely reshape society: metal. And that brings us to the Chalcolithic period, which basically means the copper-stone age. And the key word here really is transition. People didn't just wake up one morning and throw away all their stone tools. For centuries, they used copper and stone technologies right alongside each other. So what did these societies look like? Well, for the most part, they were rural farming communities that developed these really unique cultures. They're famous for their beautiful painted pottery and, for the first time, the incredible skill of smelting copper to make tools. We also start to see specialized crafts, which is a big hint that trade and social complexity were on the rise. And you see these distinct cultures thriving all over the subcontinent, from the Aharbanas people in Rajasthan to the Jorve culture in the Deccan. They were building villages, farming all kinds of crops, and creating these complex trade networks. They were really laying the foundation for the great urban civilizations that were still to come. So we've talked a lot about tools and pottery and technology, but what about the people themselves? Who were they? What did they think about? What did they believe? Well, for that, we need to turn from their tools to their art. And this is where it gets really magical. In the rock shelters of Bhimbetka in Madhya Pradesh, it's like our prehistoric ancestors left us a postcard from the past. These paintings are this vibrant, living window into their world. They show us scenes of hunting, of community dancing, of the animals they shared the world with. It's not just art, it's history painted right onto the rock for us to see. And it's not just their art that gives us clues about their inner world. It's also how they said goodbye to their loved ones, the way they conducted formal burials, often placing tools and pottery in the grave with the person. That tells us they had sophisticated rituals, probably social hierarchies, and very likely a strong belief in some kind of afterlife. So when we step back and just zoom out for a second, what do we see? We see this absolutely incredible journey of innovation. It starts with the simplest, crudest pebble tools imaginable, and it progresses all the way to hyper-efficient microliths, beautifully polished axes, and culminating in them forging the very first copper spearheads. Because what we're really looking at here isn't just a timeline of old artifacts. The story of prehistoric India is a 2-million-year epic. It's a story of human ingenuity, of adaptation, and of the resilience to survive against all odds. They used stone and bone and paint and eventually copper to tell their story of innovation. And it kind of makes you think, doesn't it? Thousands of years from now, when someone unearths the artifacts of our time, what story will they tell about us?